Hello and welcome to Celtic World, the YouTube channel connecting Celtic fans all over the world. And checks notes, probably the worst Celtic podcast out there. So from wherever you happen to find yourself in this pale green dot, you're part of a Celtic world. And who else is part of it? Tonight we've got three very august contributors. Apparently our contributors are either roasters or virgins. So David, can you identify which one you are?
With 4 kids, I have to be a roaster, and happily to be so.
And Paul?
Well, I have no kids, so I could be either, but I've been called worse than both. So, to be fair, as I pointed out on our group chat, it was you 4 on Monday that got called roasters and virgins. I wasn't part of that, so I'll wait till the feedback comes in after this show.
Paul showing there's definitely an I in team.
Yeah.
As far as he's concerned. Well, as they say, Kaiser, as they say in all the best shows, nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares. Just nobody cares. Any opinion people raise, it's an opinion where they're drawing attention to the podcast. I did see the comedy piece. Comedy is subjective. I was not here. I was in the chat. And the first thing I said about it was, why did you make CCV look like Bobby Boucher's dad from The Waterboy? He's like, he comes in, he's like, we're going to the Super Bowl, Bobby. I was like, what's wrong with his eyes? Why is he not moving? This might not go down well, Gav. And then I seen us getting berated on social media, called roasters and virgins. I'm like, both. I'm a combination of both. I'm a roaster and a virgin. Or a virgin roaster, either one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not to worry. I mean, plenty of people seem to like it too. So just those that shout loudest are the ones that are heard. But anyway, as you say, nobody cares. Let's get on with what we're talking about today. Have I created this thing? Yes, I have. It's a pretty simple show tonight. Transfer window, it's almost closed. And, well, we're going to pick apart the wreckage of this January transfer window, which is going to be fun. Not too many laughs in that. And then second, we're going to preview the Aberdeen game and then on to Celtic social. So that's the plan for today. What happened there? Say hello to everyone who's in here in the chat.
Yo.
Morning, troops.
Alex, Frank, legend,
Virgin
welcome
Paul.
in.
Here's a new term for you, Kaiser. You're a voaster.
Yeah, a voaster, well said, Paddy Lavery. And my man in there as well, Plunge McNugget. Every time we plunge McNugget. Every time I see his name, it's all I hear is that song.
Kaiser, there's no time for frivolity, okay? We're going to get hauled across the coals again. We'll have to do nothing but whinge and whine for the whole hour.
No.
Anything else is a breach of the unwritten rule.
Conduct.
All right, so transfer window chat. Where do we start with this? Let's start with strikers, shall we? If you remember back to the start of the window, the conversation was all Miofsky, Sidney Van Hooydonk, or your man from Hearts, whose name escapes me.
Big Larry. Big Larry Fivehead.
Big Shankland.
That's the one. And we all said, oh, that's not the kind of, real quality we're looking for from this window. We demand more than that. Jesus. Any one of those would have been absolutely fine if they came in today, wouldn't they? At least that's what I think. Anyway, Sidney Van Hooydonk's not happening. Norwich have agreed to sign him on loan with a buy option. And instead, what's the name of this top striker recognized and feared throughout the world, David, that we're most probably signing?
Adam Ida, is it?
Unknown talent.
Tell us about
Adam Ida.
22-year-old. He's a third choice, I think, for his current team. 2.2 million price tag. That's about all I can tell you about it because I don't think anybody else knows.
Over 100 games, 20 caps for Ireland. Not a great scoring records. Look, whilst we're on him, give you my view. He's obviously not at the level where we're looking for. but I do feel a bit sorry for him. He's feeling that he is individually gonna. If you've seen the photos of him arriving at the airport, he looks like he's been up for about 4 nights and no sleep. So the first bit of that is probably excitement, and then the last bit is probably been reading Twitter for the last sort of 24 hours. It's not his fault. Like whatever we think about the recruitment, it's not his fault. And there you go. He looks like he's been on a bender for 2 days straight.
He's all right. He's got his head in the G spot of Glasgow, right in the G. Big man's here for it.
And
well, I'm glad he dressed up for the occasion.
Maybe he was going straight to go out to the training ground.
Well, there was reports right from Celtic saying that he completed a medical in London and then flew into Glasgow later that night, and there was pictures from Lennoxtown of someone going through a medical at Lennoxtown. So it begs the question.
That was earlier in the day.
So it begs the question: who was going through the medical earlier in the day at Lennoxtown? Well, Ida was doing his medical in London and getting a flight to Glasgow. And why did Celtic release pictures, a small video of someone doing a medical at Lennoxtown?
I don't think they released it. I think somebody's hiding up a hill and taking a shot. Like I've seen the quality of the video.
Yeah, it's high class.
It's the usual deadline day super sleuth stuff with that. Who knows? You've got no idea. It could be somebody, just try to get a bit of fitness back. This is my thing about this guy is I think we've all written players off before they've kicked a ball. We've slagged players off on the basis of 2 or 3 matches that will never make it, and then they go on to a great career. So I think it's comfortable to say that he's not at the level we thought. His profile is not the level we'd be targeting, but that doesn't mean as fans we should get off his back. It's the board and the recruitment team that deserve the grief for this. And this kid, like anyone that pulls on the hoops, will get my backing until such points as either he's not putting effort in or proves himself to be hopeless. So he gets a crack as far as I'm concerned. Some of the commentary, there's a lot of mixed commentary. You can kind of find, this is the problem with social media and media in general. You can find an opinion that suits your agenda if you look hard enough. There's loads of people put together snippets of him, Norwich fans saying we're delighted to be rid of him. But equally, there's a bunch of Norwich fans coming on saying, the guy's decent, he's got pace, he's physical, he's 6'3", he's actually not a bad finisher, he's had shocking service, he hasn't had a lot of minutes. So there'll be 2 sides to this story. And look, there's a chunk of our support that are desperate to see anything fail almost at this point, because it sort of fits the agenda of the anti-board. And yeah, I saw Sutton's comments. He's probably a little bit close to it, but he's also looking for the clicks and all the other stuff as well. That's how he functions on controversy. It'd be a lot. He wouldn't, if he sticks his head up and goes, he might be okay. Like, what's that going to generate? Nothing. He's not what we want. The fact there's no loan, there's no option to buy, shows that it's scattergun and there's no forward thinking. The Lagerbielke thing is another shambles that shows that there's no long-term strategy and it doesn't, things aren't being targeted properly. So there's 2 major things here. There's give the player a chance now if he's coming, but the bigger focus is we've got an absolute shambles on our hands in terms of how the board go about business and how the recruitment team is searching for players.
But
Kaiser,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's a loan with nothing else on it. There is no option to buy even.
I don't see for all I look at this transfer and I think, okay, domestically I thought before this window we are going to be strong enough to come through in the second half of the season and win the league. I think Brendan's done the business and the squad's done the business in the first half of the season. We've got to respect that. We've got to respect the minutes that have been played and the work that's been put in. Okay, we had a more substantial lead and we threw it away with a couple of poor performances against smaller teams. So we're looking to really rule that out. Bringing in Ida, for me, it just doesn't really make sense. There, as you said, there's no option to buy. Why are we going to, for all I hope the player comes and is successful, like Paul says, give the guy a chance, give him a fair crack of the whip. Even if he gets a fair crack of the whip, He looks physical. He looks like he's got pace, ability. Even Sutton saying he's a prospect. Okay, we're not looking, it's not the buzzword right now, prospect. It's not what we're looking for. But say he does come in and he is a revelation, we have no option to keep him. We're just enhancing another team's player. We're basically enhancing Norwich's bench while Sidney van Hooijdonk used our club as a stepping stone. He used the name of Celtic as a stepping stone to find himself a better transfer. Ended up at Norwich and we ended up with their third string striker. It just speaks volume of the business and the recruitment under.
I don't think we wanted Sidney van Hooijdonk. I think that was agent and paper talk. Given the agent since said that
I think
that was his preferred destination.
I think if I
preferred destination, he'd be here.
I think if I held up two pictures to you, Paul, and one was Ida and one was Sidney van Hooijdonk, and I asked you to choose who you wanted in the window, I'm pretty sure you would have pointed to Sidney. I'd be like, give me Sidney van Hooijdonk. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree, but like, apparently we were his preferred destination. So I don't know. I just think none of it makes sense. The only thing that I saw somebody said somewhere that they basically said, and the stretch in this is, it sounds like we would be well organized, which we all know we're not, is the only reason you would take a striker like that just to plug a gap without any option is if you're cast iron sure you've got your new striker lined up in the summer and that target is already in play. And whether there's a lot of chat about Chris Garden, butchered that probably, but his fee's only gone up and we weren't that keen on paying it in the summer. So I can see why they don't, like, they're in a title race. So I can see why they don't want to release him, just the same as we don't want to release Matt O'Reilly or any other player at this window.
I think
also, I've got no confidence. I've got no confidence that we'll secure a deal for a first choice striker this far out. So a lot of it doesn't make sense.
I think Paul, that it could be forward planning, like you're alluding to there. Say we all go out right and start splashing the cash. Celtic go out and start splashing the cash right now. We bring these players in to ensure we clinch a domestic title that it looks like we already have enough quality for, with a bit of support. Just bringing in this support striker definitely looks to me like, you say, maybe it's a bit of forward planning geared towards the summer and the building for next season Champions League. Perhaps the board's going to go all in and back Brendan, but history does not suggest that is what's going to happen. Sorry, I missed those comments there. Gav?
I just wanted to give, well, actually, let's give David a chance to say something. He's tried to make his voice heard recently. But
it's kind of really, what does all of this talk to? Does it actually talk to the possibility that we're going to give someone a chance? Does it talk to the possibility that we've got a longer term plan? Does it talk to what we see from the activity at Celtic, that it looks like it's under control and it's not last minute? What does it all say? It all says the board are not interested in investing in this team. They want to plug gaps where they possibly can. They want the opportunity to develop a player and possibly make some more money out of them. They've rejected loan deals because they weren't getting enough money. It looks like this. Is this seriously when Brendan has repeated and said quality? Is this what he means by that? Because that makes me very concerned about Brendan's judgment. And are we genuinely saying that? Does he look like he's been under stress and he quipped about after the last game, the booze, and he said, oh, it's me or it's the board, etc. Rattled again. None of this window has talked to anything other than lack of investment from the board, no involvement from the manager, poor scouting, and last-minute deals in order to paper up cracks of our important players who are getting injured. I think it's a state. That's what I think this is. I think everything says that and nothing else.
I think you need to wait until the close of business. You know what I mean, David? Today, 11:30 tonight, the close of business. Give them the chance to rectify the situation. And then as soon as that window, everyone always says the window slams shut. That window could creep shut at the rate your fingernails grow, and Celtic would still struggle to get people in, especially on deadline day. But there is links. There's a name mentioned in chat there by Michael Ross. I'm sure you see there, Gav, which is Urazawa, I believe is how you say his second name. Left back from PSG. They spent 25 million on him. They are believed to be paying 95% of his wages, and Celtic picking up 5%. But the validation of that, I don't know. But it's rumours that are going about this morning, along with rumours of Miovski that have resurfaced being available with the sacking of Barry Robson. So there's a lot on the go today. There's a lot still happening, a lot of excitement. Nothing to be... There's been days I've been downbeat, and I can understand the way it does look. Looks like business is back to usual for Celtic with the mediocre signings and the championship cast-offs. Let's hope it goes better today. You know what I mean, David? Let's hope we can push something through.
Naturally, I don't...
Gav, you're muted. Let's have it, Shirawa.
Gav.
Just clinging on to hope as the seconds tick down on the window. It's like,
well,
absolutely.
I just wonder, I want to ask guys a question. Is it not a bit early to be on the bucky? Like, I get a positive spin. I'm usually accused of being too positive.
I've only finished one bottle, bro.
The board are bumbling around in the dark, like...
I don't think so, Paul.
A Jakey. I think they haven't got a clue.
I think, honestly, I think if you look at Celtic and you look at three separate entities of Celtic, right, which would be the managing team would be one, the recruitment team would be another, and the board would be another. The board are sitting in the office right now, all patting each other in the bank. Like, we've got 70-odd million pounds in the bank. There's a big pat in the back for you. They're then looking at the recruitment team and going, oh, you're bringing in players for £6 million and selling them for 25 million. And you've just brought in, we've got Matt O'Reilly there, 1.5 million, and he's looking at going for 30 million plus. The recruitment team are all sitting patting each other on the back in a big circle like they're doing a great job, not realising that with the wheat, we are also getting the chaff. They are throwing chaff players at us. So I understand it, but from where it looks from those points of view, those parts of the club are doing amazing business. The only person struggling is Brendan and the team. So when Brendan's coming out and saying the fans are booing at the board one week, they're booing at the recruitment team the next week, they're booing at the team the next week. Well, if Celtic fans were a bit more focused and stop being so flip-floppy in our opinions, we could focus on the board and start actually making a movement to make movement there, a reform of the board. I don't think we're ever going to manage to oust any of the families in charge at Celtic.
Well, we aren't. That's the problem. You're not. But there's absolutely no strategy. There's zero strategy. There's a broad strategy to buy players cheap and sell them at a profit, but there's no strategy in terms of actually dealing with the problems in the playing staff. It's like otherwise, why would you be bringing in the third choice striker from Norwich with no option on the second last day of the window? It's just bumbling from one thing to the next. It's a shambles. And the only reason it wasn't a shambles for the last 2 years is because we dropped on a genuinely elite level manager who was willing to stand up to the board and came from a market which was undervalued, and he had inside knowledge on it.
Who was this guy?
Through sheer force of character, managed to get all of that done and put a great side look on the park. But look how quickly it unravelled as soon as he walked out the door. It papered over the cracks. That's now abundantly clear. We're as bad now at recruitment as we were when we lost to 10. And there's been no forward planning in any of that time. There's no proper director of football. We've got the chairman's son as a de facto. It's a nonsense.
Well, Kaiser mentioned family, and I'm going to jump in there and stop you.
Just 1 second, Gav, sorry, just 1 second, just slightly
above that. You know what I'm trying to make happen here, Dave?
You know what I mean? Right, go in, you make it happen. He's got to play some music here, guys.
It's not music. It's this. There you go. Like and subscribe. What do you make of that, Kaiser? The family.
Precisely the problem that's going on. It just outlines it precise from golf shop manager to head of UK and European recruitment. What a meteoric rise of this business. He must have solved a Rubik's Cube in the back of a taxi cab on the way to Celtic Stadium. I don't think so. You know what I mean? It is 100%. As Paul said, like as Paul brushed right over every category of it and nailed it on the head every step of the way, it is indicative of what Celtic do. And I was going to say, right, Paul, when Ange came in and the players that Ange brought in, you could very much say those players are individually specialised to Ange's style of play, and therefore they are struggling in Brendan's style of play. They've not got the diverse nature. They need to develop more. So there is things to say that Ange wasn't perfect. I don't think every single signing made came through Ange, but I don't think scouting is something that we have nowadays. I think people who are paid to be scouts for Celtic watch a YouTube video and Celtic contact a network of agents, and that's how they're bringing in these players. I mean, Lagerbielke, Starfelt's agent, so many of the players just come through the same agents over and over again.
But if we reflect at all on that, and we think of any period where there was something of excitement and belief from the Celtic fans that things were working in the recruitment space, was when Ange was with Dominic Mackay and Peter Law was not around. And some things seemed to happen, and we had a sense of that. We didn't know behind the scenes what was going on, whether or not that was just timing of things, events that took place. But there was something of an outsider of Ange, and he wasn't part of the family. Dominic Mackay obviously wasn't, because they got rid of him quick enough. But we still don't know the reasons for that, because he seemed eminently qualified from a Scottish sporting point of view and forward-looking. Something changed there, didn't it? And we don't know the reasons for it. So whenever you're on the outside of that family group, that's it. It would seem you're not coming in.
Well,
and go ahead.
Sorry, David. They used Ange as a smother to appoint Mark Lawwell. Apparently, him and Ange were best mates. Went for milkshakes and whatnot together. They had all sorts of business dealings through the Manchester City group. When was the last time you seen a player come into Celtic from the Manchester City group? That is a pipeline that's thoroughly dried up, and I believe it was dried up before we should have had any affiliation with them. We should be putting backing into our own scouting and going out and doing the job ourselves and developing our own youth at our own youth academy and exploiting our own pathways into professional football. But we're not. We're seeking it for other clubs. Right now, after the Man City, they've started pilfering Benfica's academy. Well, we've got our own academy laying to waste and other people pilfering that cupboard. It's the epitome of poor business. You know what I mean? It's just indicative throughout the club. But as it says, right, as we all started, didn't want to be too negative. Don't want to be too down on everything. We are still top of the league. We are still in contention. I do still think we have enough quality overall to win out in the league. Bringing in some more, a left back. Now we've got a backup striker. It's going to be hard to bring someone in January. I understand that as well. To play second string to Kyogo. Someone's not coming in here to oust Kyogo. So I believe Celtic have went and looked for someone to come in and compete with O rather than compete with Kyogo, which I don't know. Guy seems big and physical. He might improve O as well.
Hail from Ballymena, boys. Our board
Hail.
recruitment team are an absolute embarrassment to our great club. I know Ballymena well. Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about some other players' names that have been thrown around. Did you enjoy the momentary meltdown and arguments over Danny Ings?
I certainly enjoyed Twitter. The entire last week of Twitter has been like it. People try and throw out the most, as you see for the background, people throw out sharks. They throw sharks on Twitter nowadays. It's the most outrageous opinion and the largest opinion swings you can hear for people. But you don't really hear them. You read them, but it's non-stop. You go through people. Sometimes I go on posts and just go through the comments. But yeah, watching people melting down over the links to Danny Ings and them not being good enough and too old and yep.
Well, there's no such thing as reasoned debate anymore. It's either he's a proven goal scorer at the highest level and be amazing for us, or if I had to watch Danny Ings in a Celtic shirt for 6 months, I'll pretty much shoot myself. Your move, Celtic. And people say, look, he'd be a good short-term loan signing. And I won't read them all out, but the one at the bottom there from Reese. If we actually sign Danny Ings, I will sell my season ticket. Starting prices will be 1p. Oh, I've got some dog action here going on. Who wants to pick it up from there and mention another name?
I'll just touch on Danny Ings. On the basis we've signed the third choice, or looking like we've signed the third choice player from Norwich, I'd have taken Ings all day long. He's got a pedigree. He's 31 years and played a lot, but he's the type of player we should be targeting in this window at this late in the day. A guy like Moy, who, you know, did a brilliant job for us. And if he hadn't chose to retire, I think would still be doing a brilliant job for us. Yes, he wouldn't be playing every week. He wouldn't be playing 90 minutes all the time. But our second half of last season, when he sort of got his run in the team, he was brilliant. Could take a penalty as well. A player or two like that, like an older head who's coming towards the end of the career, but still got a bit of life in them yet. Danny Ings could easily have been that. And there'll be loads of others around there. This is my problem with all of this. You're not telling me in the whole globe there aren't a few 31, 32-year-olds that were being brilliant players in the past and found themselves at a club where they're not getting the game time they wanted and would surely jump at the chance to add a title and possibly a cup to their resume for 3 or 4 months' work at 30, 40 an hour every week. I just don't believe it's the case. All over, like, you know, where was Moy when we picked him up? Nowhere. He'd been playing in China. He'd been doing nothing. He'd been kicking his heels. He took a while to get up to speed when we signed him, but once he did, what a player! This is why I'm saying recruitment's an absolute shocker. It's not just the superstar players that were, you know, and long-term planning that's the problem. It's stuff like this. There's a place for a short-term loan with no option to buy, like a Craig Bellamy, like a Robbie Keane. It isn't the third choice striker from Norwich. I just don't understand what we're doing. It's an absolute shambles. And look, there's some good people on Twitter, like you and I, or better than you and I, that spend time on this shit, and they could pull up a better list than our guys who are paid a handsome salary, presumably. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't know what they're doing. It's a shambles. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't already get my theme, I'm completely over this window. I saw Forrest finishing, comparing it to a night at the dancing, you know, everybody's shuffling around and it's nearly finished. And I basically said, turn the lights on so we can off and go home because I'm sick of it. The sooner this window's over, whatever comes in, at least we can then concentrate on the football again because it's an absolute shambles. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm done for a bit.
I think it's a useful marker, though. I think it's what it's been, because there was a lot of flip-flop coming up. Are we going to be okay? Are we going to be back in? But I think it's a useful marker because it was said at the AGM we were going to spend some money. Brendan would have that money, and it's not appeared. And as you say, Paul, you've summed it up. So let's have this.
Well, it's not even just the main money's appeared. If we only sign Coombe, we've covered that. If we get the 2 million for Turnbull, which, by the way, there's a great bit of business if we get 2 million quid for him, we've got about 1 million for Ideguchi by all accounts. So there's 3. That's what we paid for Coombe. We'll have spent nothing. Mm-hmm. And there's 70, 80 million sitting in the bank account. It's just ridiculous.
It's a confusion. It's a confusing signals in it. It's Brendan coming on and giving comments, talking about quality in 4 additions, and then there's no additions and you're in the last day of the window. It's also those mixed messages for the manager as well. Got to wonder, where is he getting his information from? And if his information isn't correct or the prime information, then he's just the same as us then, isn't he? He's shooting in the dark and guessing. Just so disjointed.
What about Tilio's going out back on loan back to Melbourne?
And return of the mark. After Melbourne City, straight back to Melbourne City. I don't think he got enough of a chance, but he did come in injured. But still, once again, looking over these clips, going back and having time to rebuild at Melbourne, maybe give him a chance to come back and give it another go. Need to wait and see how that one goes. You know what I mean?
He's a talented player. He is a talented player. He came injured, which didn't help him. Set him back miles. We signed a ton of other wingers. He was never really going to get a run at it this year. There's two ways to look at this. Melbourne City are absolutely delighted, and their fan base is still absolutely delighted to get him back. He's got an option. He's got a decision to make. Does he want to make it as a serious player in Europe? If he does, he comes back, he knuckles down for 3 or 4 months, finishes the season in Australia, and goes back fresh, fit, and has a crack at it like Tom Rogic did when he came back to Melbourne Victory. And you could have been at that point, you could have said, well, we'll never see him again. But Rogic, knuckled down, came back, and over a period, eventually got himself up to a standard. And we all, the rest is history. Tilio, I'm not putting him in this. I'm not going to say he's the second Rogic, but he's absolutely got talent. For me, it comes down to attitude and application. And if he can get himself fitting on a run of form and is willing to come back and fight for a place, who knows? There is definitely talent there, but he could just as easily come down here, decide he's happier in the sunshine, and never really make it at a higher level.
Well, from one Aussie to another.
Hey mate, you are watching the least boring Celtic YouTube chat show in the world. And it is totally free. Jeez, that's got to be worth a subscribe, eh?
Gotta be worth a subscribe, eh? What do you reckon?
You flaming galah.
Yeah, we did the same with Tom Rogic, and that worked out. Look how that worked out.
I think that's the thoughts behind it.
There's a big debate going on in the chat there about what's the next step for Celtic fans. Have we had enough direct action? We can't sack the board. We can hit them where it hurts. Let's get organised.
I think the only way for us as fans to do anything about the board is to hurt the club. It's to hurt the club we love. It's to stop attending games, stop buying merchandise, don't renew your season book. That's the only thing we can do is to start hurt them where it hurts in the pound strings. But very much they're equipped with enough money in the bank to see a fan protest off for about 5 years. So be prepared. If we're going to go down that road, be prepared to go the full road.
The problem with that is there's obviously a big pride in we're a broad church, etc., and that's great. But on things like this, you give up your season book, somebody else will take it. Certainly. So to me, you've got to find a balance between you want to still attend games, you want to still support the team, but beyond your season ticket, you pull the only way I can see is you pull the pin on everything else. Merch, food inside the stadium, drinks inside the stadium, any additional spend through the club other than your ticket. But I'd be very surprised. There's just a general level of kind of borderline apathy. And look, I think the one thing to say is, a few people have mentioned it and touched it. Even if we had nobody, I still expect us to win the league. It's going to be tight, a lot tighter than it should have been. It's an absolute nonsense. I do. Yeah, we've got a better manager and a better squad. So all things being equal, we should win the league. So I'm not sitting here entitled we'll it's definitely we'll win the league. That's where we should be. We should have been out of sight already.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be adding it from a position of strength. Like if we hadn't had that poxy period, we'd be still 8 or 10 points clear. Then we should be adding 2 or 3 proper quality players. And their fixtures start to pile up and we disappear into the sunset and it's happy days. It's on cruise control. We strengthen again and off we go. But because of bad mismanagement from recruitment and the board, we're going to be in a bit of a dogfight. But I still think we've got enough quality to win the title as is. But we shouldn't be in this position. We should be we should have comfortably added to the squad and we should be pulling away from them. But as it stands, we've shot ourselves in the foot again.
So I think as a fan, even if you're at the top of the league, right, and that's fine, that's good. There's been some good work, but so it should be given what has been spent, the players that we do have, etc., and the investment from fans as a club over over a longer period, and accepting managers who left as high and dry and came back and getting over it and focused again. But what Celtic fans want is to de-risk this situation, because there has been managed decline of performance and positions in the league by this board before. They've got previous, and certainly the 10 in a row was the best and most recent example of that. And reactionary appointments are not the best when we have Lennon hired in a shower. We know what can go on, and what Celtic fans are insisting upon is, for a club of this level, for the Premier club, is to always behave as the Premier club and not bargain basement hunters, so that we may or may not win the league. And the league is something that we don't take for granted, that we want, and we want strong competition as well. But given where everybody else is, that's not good enough for our position of advantage. And what we're certainly not doing is building and developing a team that can actually genuinely compete in Europe. Those are the things that Celtic fans are concerned about. And it is no way being ungrateful for any success that we have, because we deserve it as fans as much as the players and the rest of Celtic.
Yeah.
It's also the actual strategic planning, right? There doesn't seem to have a lot of planning. The broad strategy of the club to buy cheap and sell for a profit, absolutely on board with that. But it's identifying replacements and having them in the door early enough that's my issue.
Yeah, it needs to come there being involved. You know what I mean?
Matt O'Reilly will be gone in the summer. I don't think any of us are in any doubt that that's the case. He'll be gone, and it should be for a fat fee. We probably won't get the fee we need, because the board are cheap on that as well. But we want to have his replacement in the door before he goes. Now, I think we probably have in Paulo Bernardo, and we've got him secured at 6 or 7. So we sell at 25, 30. We get him in at 6 or 7. The model works perfectly. The problem is we also need Bernardo as a replacement, because he's a first pick at the minute. Now, I don't think we've got that. So I just don't think we've got the flow in, and certainly not in across the. But there's one part of the team. Left back's been a problem for about 5 years. Goalkeeper has been an ongoing problem. Hart's done a good job, but Bain, Zegras, none of them have been at the right quality, and that's the backup for however many years. There was that season where 3 goalies played, almost on a rotating weekly basis. That was, that was the cross into the 10 in a row season, I think. So it just seems haphazard, and we've had time to put these changes in place, and we still haven't done it. And whatever we laugh at the other lot across the way, now that they've got a kind of Dutch director of football, they've had that model well in play in that country for years. And it might take them a year or two to get that actually working, but at least they've identified that it's a problem. We seem quite happy with the old keep it in the family nonsense.
Okay. Well, look, let's move on to, as you say, you're talking about Rangers, talking about the league. Well, let's get back to business then. We all know this has been a disastrous window to date. It's very unlikely anything's going to happen at the 11th hour to change that. And
guys, that doesn't think so. 2 or 3 coming in.
Yeah.
But yes.
2 or 3.
Kaiser's optimism.
Wait and see.
I hope you're right.
So we're just going to have to see how we get on the second half of the season, and whether Rodgers can, prove that he's an elite level manager and get a tune out of these guys and get some consistency going. And we'll have to see what Rangers additions look like. Hopefully they're not too effective. But we need to move on to the preview of the game. So let's do that. So this is the fixture list. Now that we're in a title fight, we have to look at the fixture list. Previously it was just who we're playing next. But now it's like, who are we playing and who are they playing? Well, the bad news is they're playing Livingston at home. So if ever there was a shoe-in for 3 points, that's it.
And they'll be closing the goal difference down, I would imagine.
Yeah. And we're away to Aberdeen.
Davy Martindale's already speaking about being a championship club next season. Yeah. He's pretty much turfed the towel in.
Nice. Let's get a white flag up. Still all baggies
so
on
We're playing Aberdeen, obviously. Who knows where Aberdeen are in the table?
8th.
Is the right answer. Look, see, there we are sitting pretty at the top. What's nothing to worry about, guys? Take it easy. It's all good. top of the league, and we're playing 8th. That's Aberdeen. Let me see, is this the... oh, no, I better stop that. The form guide is what I want. Look at the form guide for the last 4 games. Surprisingly, we're also up there.
Mm-hmm.
And Aberdeen are 5th. Now, what's the big news out of Aberdeen?
Barry Robson's been given his jotters.
Yep.
Barry Robson's been left frustrated, it's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
Frustrating, frustrating for us. And I think maybe we all got a bit frustrated. Frustrating. Real frustration from us. I think the frustrating part, frustrated. Your eyes? Frustrating, I think. Frustration. I think it was frustrating night. I think. And that goalless draw. Probably frustrating.
There you go. That was a little touch of the what's his name? Angus Gunn?
Right.
No,
Brian's gun. Yeah.
Although I don't think anyone can hear that. I don't know what's going on when I play these little clips in the volume. I always try and make them as loud as possible, but then when I listen back to them, they're quiet as a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aberdeen, Kaiser, talk us through this game. What are you expecting?
Expecting like a hard-fought game. On our current form, it's going to be a war of attrition. Aberdeen sacking Barry Robson, maybe looking for that new manager bounce. You know, players improved, play better with the thought of a new manager coming in. They look to impress, earn a chance. Players suddenly come out of the shadows and step up. And, well, the Aberdeen, for all they're quite low in the league, got some dangerous players and the ability to hurt Celtic, especially on the break. So, with the injuries we're facing and the uncertainties about the squad right now, yeah, I'm very worried about the next game. It's one game at a time, I believe, for us as it goes. I know it seems the other side of the city out here where I am, they'll have an easy day, turn up and take points off Hunsbula, which is disappointing because you'd like to see it more competitive. I do believe they have not approached Hearts by Shankland deliberately, because I think if they remove Shankland from Hearts, it weakens Hearts, and Hearts are a team that look likely to cause an upset when they play us. They certainly have in the past. So I think there's method to their madness. So we should be careful.
You don't just think it's the coffers are empty.
I thought the coffers were empty before they started making £4 million signings and we were taking on loan players while our coffers are full. So now
if you mean the most recent good, that Diamande dude, then that's an option to buy that's kicked into next year. So that's if they haven't got any money, that's exactly why they've done that deal. So it falls into next year's pot. So I think, yeah, they'd love to have him, but predominantly I think if they don't get him, it's because they ain't got any cash. And have someone up front.
David, tell us about your lineup choices. Who are you looking forward to seeing? Would you start anyone unusual? And do you think it's going to be easier for Celtic away from home in the current because of the current atmosphere?
Yeah, so I think I was going to say it, and we have actually played arguably better away from home in our previous matches. I think away from a kind of hostile environment as well, because you know that there'll be a lot of time. If we were going to play at home based on the last match, then yeah, maybe they would have a lot more concern coming on. In terms of the lineup, no Burnaby, please. I think we've kind of tried that and that didn't work. Please, some stability. I mean, Kuhn didn't, for me, look to add anything particularly great when he came on the other end. No better than what we already have. I'd be kind of wanting, I think, to bring probably Narowski, obviously, if he's available to play. I thought he was one of the guys come on, actually equipped himself well. I don't know what our injuries are right now. You probably have CCV out, not playing. So I would rather what we did was, because I agree with Kaiser, this is not something that we can take for granted, even if we get away from home from a bit of a toxic environment. New manager bounce or got rid of last manager. That certainly always seems to happen as well. But I think teams, I remember Ian has said this, teams know how we play and will have worked out that we don't change our whatever system it is that we seem to be playing. So actually what I would like to do is see the manager. If anything, I would like the core players that we know can deliver in the team, but I would also like the manager to change tactics, because it's so obvious what we're doing and we are so exposed that that's the biggest risk. I think the manager is probably the biggest issue that we're going to face in this match, and he needs to improve his elite levelness, as we hear.
Yep.
Response.
I think it's undoubted the away form's better. I don't think it's arguable. I think it's undoubted. It's clearly better. I'm not too concerned about this fixture. Aberdeen are hopeless. Their home form is terrible. There is always the fear that there's a little reaction to a manager losing his job, but unless they've got somebody in by tomorrow, which I don't think they will, there'll be no new manager to give a new manager bounce. It'll be whoever's kicking around. And inevitably, quite often, nothing really happens with that. The new manager bounce comes in when there's actually a new manager to impress. I'm not being overly flippant on it. It'll, be a toughish game, but I expect a reaction.
Pardon me.
Obviously, the game was poor the other day, but we created enough chances to win it comfortably. The form prior to the break was great. Hopefully we get a return to form. One of our biggest issues is moving the ball more quickly. When we've won games well and comfortably, we've moved the ball quickly. The game against the Mirren's a perfect example. We shifted the ball really quickly. We played at a tempo that they couldn't live with, and we blew them away.
Why is that hard to do all the time? That should be easy enough to do. When you get on the pitch and the ball comes to you, you move it quickly. Always have an out, always know where the other players are. Don't dilly-dally.
I don't know. Difficult
How
to
come
say,
that doesn't happen all the time?
Well, that's. I mean, look, my concern is some of the mentality stuff. So, obviously, I wasn't on Monday's show, and I don't want to dwell on it, but the mentality of the whole team fell apart when those two penalties got missed. They dropped off completely. Until that point, score one of the penalties. We should have been up 3-0. Bernardo's got a simple chance. He should have scored. At 3-0, the game's done. We probably win 4-5, 6-0. Comfortable. Completely different week from there. But we missed two penalties, and the tension ramped up, and the team didn't seem to be able to handle it. So mentally, we need to be better, and that's a big thing on penalty misses. 80-90% of a penalty is in the head. I can take a penalty, but I don't think I'd be able to do it in a big match at Parkett. Do you know what I mean? Like it comes down to strength of character. It's not, they're all capable of hitting a penalty in a corner. So there's an issue there, and I agree with David. Tactically, we're too one-dimensional.
Does that come down to us all expecting more from this manager? I mean, we've already discussed recruitment. We've already discussed the board. Has Rodgers himself just not covered himself in glory at all yet? I mean, what has he done really that we can praise him for that much?
He's taken Matt O'Reilly to another. He's taken Matt O'Reilly to another level.
Pardon me,
Under him, Matt O'Reilly has gone to another level, whether it's Rodgers or O'Reilly himself, or the guy in India.
You can't. Well, yeah, but you can't point the finger at Rodgers for the negative stuff and not give him some credit for the positive at the same time. It's a bit churlish otherwise. So, but he's ultimately the buck with the squad we've got and the players that are available, and we've talked at length about what we should have available. Obviously, the buck stops with him. He's the one that trains them all week. He's the one that sets up the tactics, and he's the one that motivates them to put them out of the pitch and go from there. I'd like to see Bernabé nowhere near the squad. Never mind the team. Like I said, I played Ralston at left back over anyone else. Mitchell Frame not even in the squad last week, so who knows if he's even available. So that's what I would do. Midfield sort of picks itself. You probably go with the same front three. Got to get service to Kyogo. We've got to get Abada in down the channels and pulling the ball into when we did that, I know it's only Bucky, but Abara held his width, created gaps in the channels, and he played the ball in, and Kyogo had chances. Against Ross County, he cut in constantly, closed up the space, and didn't get the ball in the channels. The one time he did get in the channels, Kyogo was closed out at the near post. And then there was one in the second half where he pulled it back, may or may not have been out, and there was a dubious handball given against Kyogo as he collected it around the penalty spot. If we get down the wings and get the ball back, there's nobody better than Kyogo. We just need to play to his strengths and service him.
It's like this little play on words here. Idaho.
That's been all over the place.
Oh, has it?
That's been all over the place.
Well, I'm
on
crediting
social
Amir
media.
Khan with inventing it.
Well, I'd be surprised if he was the original creator.
Anyway,
But there you go.
Kaiser, we wouldn't be gurning if they'd got the manager that we both wanted in. Hey, can you imagine where we'd be under
Oh,
Knudsen?
It's easy to say. I can imagine we would
It
be
is. That's why I
crowded,
said it.
you know what I mean? But the reality of that situation, how that might have actually went, that's two different things. And that's a manager that's never managed outside of Norway, as I was constantly reminded. But I think we could have done a lot worse. Still waiting to see. I believe we have seen right in the derby matches that Brendan has the ability, the tactical nuances to get the wins. But it's just something from an elite level manager that I expected to see a little bit more. You know what I mean? A little bit more subtlety. I expected him to be looking at the pitch, and if I'm your average chunky punter from Ibrox going to watch the game, and I can see that Kyogo's lacking service, Palma is not driving down the line. He only ever goes inside. He never takes a man on and crosses the ball. Seen that, it was evident, as Paul says, when Abada came back and just hit the byline and squared the ball. Kyogo looked like, oh, Kyogo's back. He's getting service again. You know what I mean? He was like a starving man. He just get a ham sandwich. But straight away again, Abada's attitude leaves a lot to the imagination as well. No interaction with fans whatsoever. He walks off the park. Not every single fan waved a Palestinian flag. Not every single fan in that stadium believed everything that the Green Brigade or supported the Palestinian people. Not all fans are like that. Some fans support, some fans don't. I think Abada viewing the support in that wide scope and just refusing to interact with the crowd and that, it shows the kind of pressure that he's under outside of Celtic as well.
He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. He's better off just keeping his head down and getting on with his game. Like, he's going through a fair bit, and he doesn't want to get himself dragged into that stuff. So I've got no issue with that stuff. He's just coming back from injury, obviously. If he plays, if he gets back to the level of performance he can do, he's a massive asset. And that's what we should be hoping for, and that's what he should be aiming for.
Well, guys, this is happening. And Stephen and I are going to be doing the watch along for this game because it's an early kickoff. So it's like Stephen's only chance, really, to like until the clocks change or whatever.
Brilliant.
So hopefully this will start at better things to come. If you're in search of company during the game, you know where to find us.
You should have put Mike's comment up instead of abandoning him. I think he says I look and sound like a junkie. He'd know exactly what that was like because I've met his mum while she was sucking my banger.
Oh,
in the chat, Mike.
Hope I made a loud noise just in time there.
Just in time.
Anyway,
Doesn't take away what she was doing.
There's no point entertaining that kind of stuff. All right.
He was talking about Paul. I'm not letting people talk about Paul like that.
Yeah.
He's already been called a virgin.
I've never met a junkie that sounds like Paul, to be honest. That is poor.
That's poor.
That suggestion. I like the way Paul
There was a major junkie problem in my hometown once upon a time. So made their daily record. There you go, scooping the daily record in the 90s about my hometown. But
everyone's hometown in the 90s was like that, wasn't it, Paul? I'm from
small town Scotland. Small town Scotland. I'm not sure it was a newsflash, but hey ho.
Newsflash, this is your choice from social media, Paul. Celts are here.
It is. Obviously, Kaiser has taken the inspiration with his backdrop. But yeah, we've talked about it on this show. I know Ian's a big fan of the old AI in terms of all this nonsense we create in pictures and stuff. This popped up on my feed a day or so ago, and I thought it was pretty funny. It's obviously AI created. It was the caption I enjoyed though. It's like, we've not gone away, and then yeah, we haven't gone away, you know. And yeah, the inflatable sharks are out. So yeah, I think all Celtic fans get the joke. The old sharks are coming back out. Yeah.
Sorry, I've clicked on to David's.
Yeah, Tam Selleck always has a funny. Peter Lowell has a 50p turnstile that had toilets in his house, which I think is true.
See that, bro? I wrote underneath it, it's £1 if it's a number 2. It's a more expensive
And
process.
I've chosen Fitzy here. So instead of buying Sidney Van Hooydonk, we're going to loan the guy. He's being brought in to replace at Norwich. You've seen this video probably loads of times, have you?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Alrighty then, that does it for Celtic socials. We're actually just coming up to the hour, so we're a little bit quicker than normal. See what's going on in the comments. Is Michael Ross from your hometown?
I don't know. Paul? I don't know, but yeah, no doubt that there's still a drug problem across rural and small town Scotland.
And next door to Who's the Snitch? I think he's answered his own question there. I have them next door with 4 devil dogs. Nightmare.
Brilliant.
Okay.
No more?
One more. What, on this same subject? I certainly have an issue with that stuff. And 267 demented parents. Their demented schoolboy politics. I thought this was about the drug problem in Scotland. Waving their very silly flags that will only drive a bat out of Celtic Park, is Frank's point.
Nice.
Well,
people's own choice to express their beliefs. That's up to them. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, shouldn't paint the full support. But Paul, I think, also hit a nail on the head when he says he's just looking to get his head down and get on with it, isn't he? So hopefully he does.
That's all any of us can do when faced with adversity. It's not right, guys. I think we've all learned a very important lesson here today. Just get your head down and get on with it. So on that note, Thank you very much, gentlemen. Kaiser, Paul,
Hail legends.
Hail.
Chat, thank you for being here.
In the chat. So we'll see you for the watch along for the Aberdeen game. Look forward to that.
With the Virgin Roasters.